good morning. This is Sindhu from BCom PA department. In this video, we are going to see about Indian Contract Act. The Indian Contract Act of 1872 prescribes the law relating to contract in India and is the key act regulating Indian Contract Act. The act is based on the principles of English common law. It is applicable to all the states of India. It determines the circumstance in which the promises made by the parties to a contract shall be legally binding under Section 2H. An Indian Contract Act defines a contract as an agreement enforceable by law. Contracts are fundamentals of business and personal transaction, creating legally binding the agreement between the parties. Offer and acceptance. Offer, a clear definition under ambiguous proposal made by one party, the offerer, to the another party, offering. Acceptance, the unqualified agreement to the term of offer, creating a binding contract. Accepted must be communicated to the offerer. Intention, to create a legal relationship. Both the parties must intend to form an agreement to be legally binded. Social and domestic agreements are generally presumed not have this intention, while the commercial agreement typically do. Consideration. Consideration refers to do something of value of exchange between the parties. Each party must provide something of value for contract to be enforceable. This can be service, money, an act, or a promises. Capacity. Parties must have a legal capacity to enter into a contract. Generally, this means they must be of a sound mind, not a minor, with some exceptions, and not under the influence of substance that impact judgment. Consent. Consent must be freely given. Contract entered into under the dues. Undue influence, misrepresentations, or frauds may be avoidable. Legally, legal of the purpose. The purpose of a contract must be legal. Contracts for illegal activities or against the public policies are not enforceable. Certainty and completeness. The term of the contract must be clear enough for the contract to enforce. Vague and incomplete agreement may not be considered as a valid contract. Forms. While many contract can be verbal, and certain type of contract must be in writing to be enforceable. These can include a contract for the sale of land, and contract that cannot be performed within 1 year, and contract for sale of goods over certain value by various things. General principles of a contract. A contract is defined as an agreement which is enforceable by law in Section 2H of Indian Contract Act of 1872. The agreement between two or more parties to do or refrain from the doings what they decided upon in exchange of something. That is, a consideration is what is known as a contract. The intention to establish a legal relations is one of the general principles in the constructions of contract. A proposal on acceptance, legitimate consideration, capacity of parties involved, freedom of will. The contract's goal must be legitimate. These are the things. The pledge that involves less than a full amount of debt is not enforceable. Payment of lesser amount does not. The pledge that involves less than a full amount of debt is not enforceable. Payment of a lesser amount does not satisfy the full amount that was agreed upon, even if the opposing party agrees. A partial payment of an obligation does not discharge the entire debt. In final case, it can be seen that consent to a well-attested agreement to accept a less sum as a payment for the consideration to back up the new agreement. Competence. In order for the contract to be enforceable, both the party must enable to enter into a one agreement. This means that the time of contract was established, that had been legal age, and it is stable mental stages. Additionally, they cannot be a bankrupt and otherwise incapable for forming the contract. Free consent. This means that both the party concerns to enter into the legal relationship must be freely given and cannot be a resulted essential of a valid contract. An agreement enforceable by law is a contract. An agreement in order to enforceable must have certain essential elements. According to section 10, and all agreements are a contract if they are made by a free concern of the parties committed to a contract for the lawful consideration and with the lawful object and are not hereby expressly declared to be a void. Thus, an agreement becomes valid contract if it has the following element: proper offer and its proper acceptance, intention to create a legal relationship, free concern, capacity of parties to contract, lawful consideration, lawful object, agreement not expressly declared void, certainty of meaning, possibility of performance, legal formalities. A contract foundation is made upon of consideration. An agreement without consideration is ineligible to be considered a binding contract. Indian Contract of 1987 specifies that consideration is something done at the promises agreement. The promiser has a right to request something of the promises or anybody else in the exchange of a consideration. The contract considered is understood to be the act of abstention, offer and acceptance. We all discussed before about the offer. A clear, defined, ambiguous proposal made by one party to the another is called as an offer. Then acceptance. The unqualified agreement to the term of the offer creating a binding a contract. Acceptance must be communicated to the offerer. For making a valid contract, there must be a lawful offer and a lawful acceptance of that offer. An offer is also called as a proposal. The word proposal and offer are synonymous and are used interchangeably. Section 2A defines the term proposal as the follows: when one person signifies to another his willingness to do or do abstain from doing anything with a view to obtaining the assent of that other to such act or absentees, he is said to make a proposal. An offer may be either expressed offer or implied offer. Acceptance. When an offer is accepted, it is result in an agreement. Acceptance is an expression by officer or his willingness to bound by the term of the offer. This result in the establishment of legal relationship between the offerer and offeree. Section 2B of Indian Contract Act defines the term acceptance as when a person to whom the proposal is made signifies his assent thereto the proposal is said to be accepted. A proposal when accepted becomes a promise. For example, A offered to sell his books to B for rupees 20. Then B agrees to buy a book for rupees 20. This is an acceptance of A offer by B. Next, we are going to see about the contingent and quasi contract. Contingent contract. Contingent contract is a contract to do or not do something. If some event collateral to such a contract does or does not happen, according to section 31. For example, a contract to pay B rupees 10,000 if B's house is burned. This is an contingent contract. Quasi contract. There is many situation in which a person may be required to conform to an obligation although he has either broken any contract nor committed any tort. For example, A has forgotten a certain articles in B's house. Now B is bound to restore. Such obligations are generally described as quasi-contractual obligation. Quasi-contract are based on the principles of equity and justice. It simply states that nobody shall enrich himself unjustified at the expenses of another. In fact, quasi-contract is not a contract at all. So, in this quasi contract, we have gained many things. Yeah, many situations may arise. If a person required to conform an obligation, that means a person is intended to do an application but he is not willing to do so, such thing is called as a quasi contract, and there will be a legal formalities to be followed, in the quasi contract. It means the purpose of contract must be legal and the contract of illegal activities or against public policies are not enforceable. It means if the law or something is not enforceable by law, it is not considered to be a contract, as well as it is not considered to be a quasi contract.